Dear learners, welcome you all to e-learning platform. Now you have reached week 12. In this week we will learn a new poem by a new poet, Dylan Thomas. The title of the poem is Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night. Me, Faisal Ahmed, with you throughout the whole lectures. Faculty member, Department of English, World University Boundaries. Let's begin. In this lesson you will learn introduction to the poem Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night, with a background study, a brief synopsis of the poem or the summary of the poem recitation with text analysis, form and structure of the poem, and a critical commentary on the poem with major theme, symbols and other critique. Introduction to the poem Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night. Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night was initially published in a literary journal in 1951. It later appeared in one of Thomas's own volumes the next year. It is a noticeably dark poem concerning itself with the end of life and the personal struggle to hang on to that life for as long as possible. Fans of Dylan Thomas have speculated that the poem was written for his ailing father, who passed away the year after the poem was first published. But without clear evidence, it is important to consider the speaker as separate from the poet. A brief synopsis of the poem Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night. Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night by Dylan Thomas is a moving poem that defines death and tells readers to defy it and rage against it for as long as possible. Rage means struggle or fight. The speaker spends most of the poem telling readers, and it, as it turns out, their own father, not to give in to death peacefully and calmly. One shouldn't just accept that it's coming and go to it willingly. Good people resist until the last moment, knowing that there's more that they could to improve the world. The same can be said for daring and energetic people who know how exciting and beautiful life can be. In the final stanza, the speaker turns to address someone personal in the lives, their father. This person is facing old age, and the speaker wants them to rage or struggle or fight against the dark like everyone else. The dark is here meaning the death or the end of life. Poem recitation with the text analysis. Do not go gentle into that good night. Stanza 1. The whole poem comprises of 6 stanzas, and out of which the 5 stanzas are of 3 lines, and the last one is a 4 lines quatrain. Tercets and quatrain. So let's recite together. Do not go gentle into that good night. All they should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Stanza 2. Wise man. Though wise men at their inn know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into the good night. Stanza 3. Good man. Good man the last wayed by, crying how bright their frail days might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Stanza 4 about wild men. So in the poem, throughout the whole poem, Dion Thomas the writer divided the whole human being's life among 4 steps or 4 categories of man, whether male or female. Wise man, good man, wild man, and grave man. So these 4 categories he divided the whole human life. Wild man who caught and sang the sun in flight and learned too late the grave date on his way, do not go gentle into that good night. Stanza 5. Grave man near death, who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Stanza 6 and the final one. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your feet's tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. The principal idea of the poem, do not go gentle into that good night. The principal idea for this poem is that human beings should resist death with all of their strength before the end. Form and structure of the poem, do not go gentle into that good night, is an example and probably the most famous English example of a villanelle, a form of poetry first conceived in 17th century France. Today it is an uncommon poetic form, but is still an effective one when used properly. The villanelle has a rigid form to it. It is a poem written in 6 stanzas, where the first 5 are terces and the final one is a quatrain. Furthermore, it is characterized by the appearance of 2 repeating refrains. Rage, rage against the dying light. Against the dying of the light. So this line is repeated throughout the whole poem. Which is called refrain in literature. Symbols used in the poem. In Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night, Dylan Thomas uses the symbol of light, meteors, and lightning. Light is the most important symbol used in this poem. It symbolizes the will to live and a desire to change the world for the better. Meteors, in lines 13 through 14, the poet describes grave man near death and how blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. They can still experience joy like a bright flash across the sky. The meteor symbolizes hope and the potential for a lasting effect on the world. Lightning symbolizes inspiration and is seen in lines 4 through 5 when the wise men realize that their words had forked no lightning. They realized there was no they could have done to improve the lives of those around them. Lightning also symbolizes power. Themes in the poem. Thomas engages with themes of death, defiance, and old age. All 3 of these themes are wrapped up in the speaker's declarations about death and how one should confront it. Throughout the first 5 stanzas of the poem, the speaker spends the lines generally talking about death and now one should stand up in the face of it. One should not go gentle into the darkness, but rage against the dying of the light. Despite these, the poet acknowledges that death is universal. There's no way for someone to avoid death forever. It's always going to catch up in the end. The speaker tries to teach the reader, and it turns out one specific person how to deal with death. It's not until the last stanza of the poem that the subject goes from broad to specific. It becomes clear that the poet is addressing his or her father and had him in mind the whole time. The poem is at once universal and specific. It applies to everyone, but at this moment it is for one person, the speaker's father. And that's the end of the lesson.